Good morning, children. Hope you are safe. Have you studied the previous class notes? Hope you are studying well. Now we are dealing with the chapter force and pressure. In this chapter, the first section is about force. What is force? We have studied in the previous class. What is force? Force is just a push or pull. Okay, force is a push or pull on an object. We discussed the effects of force. That is what happens when a force is applied on an object. Okay, hope you clear that. In the previous class we discussed about types of forces. What are the types of forces? Can you say? Yes, contact force and non-contact force. What do you mean by contact force? That is the force when two bodies, the force results when two bodies are in contact with each other are called contact force. Then what is non-contact force? The force results when the bodies are not in contact with each other are called non-contact force. Hope you clear that. We also discussed about the examples of contact force. We studied one example of contact force. What is it? Yes, muscular force. What is muscular force? The force resulting due to the action of muscles is known as muscular force. Okay. Another contact force is friction. That is force of friction. What is force of friction? Let's see an example. A ball rolling on the ground. What do you notice? You can see the ball gradually slows down and finally comes to rest or stop rolling of ball. Okay, why does this happen? Why does not the ball continue to roll on the ground forever? Here the ball moves and after some time it comes to rest. Here actually happens the changes in the state of motion, isn't it? That is, we already studied that a force can change the state of motion. So, here also there will be a force acting when the ball moves on the ground, and that force makes the ball slows down and stops after some time. So, what is that force? The ground applies a force on the ball. The force that ground applies on the ball when the ball moving on the ground. The ground applies a force on the ball and this force acts against the motion of the ball. Or we can say the direction of this force is opposite to the direction of motion. The direction of motion of ball. Okay, clear? When the ball rolls towards the right, then the ground applies a force on it towards the left. And that force that ground applies on the ball is called force of friction. Simply we can say friction. The force of friction has a great importance in our daily life. Can you say one example? We can walk and run because of friction. How is it possible? How is friction help us to walk? When we walk forward, we try to push the ground. with our foot. We try to push the ground with our foot in backward direction. Then we move forward. Children, please walk. Then you can understand that in order to move forward, you are pushing with your foot. You are pushing with your foot on the ground backward. Isn't it? Do you understand? The force applying on the ground with our foot is which force? Can you say? That is the force of friction. Here we are applying the force of friction on the ground with our foot. That is, the force of friction is opposite to the direction of our motion. The force of friction is opposite to the direction of our motion. When we need to move forward, we are applying this force of friction in backward direction. When we walk forward, we have to apply the force of friction in backward direction. Hope you understand. Similarly, when we rest, the board will move. The board comes to rest if we stop rowing it. Am I right? It is also due to the force of friction. Here the force of friction is between the water and the boat. That is, the friction between water and the boat brings it to rest. When you stop rowing, the boat brings to rest by the friction between water and the boat. Hope you get the concept of friction. So, what can we understand about the force of friction? What is force of friction? Is force of friction a contact force? Is force of friction a contact force? We see in the first example, the ball rolling on the ground slows down and stops after some time. Here, the ball is in contact with the ground. In the second example, while we are walking on the ground, our foot was in contact with the ground. Similarly, in the third example, while we are rowing the boat was in contact with the surface of water. So, we can say that the force of friction is definitely a contact force. The force of friction always acts on all the moving object. Always acts on all the moving objects. How will be the direction of force of friction? That is, the direction of force of friction is always opposite to the direction of motion. The direction of force of friction is always opposite to the direction of motion. We will learn more about friction in the next chapter, 12th chapter, that is friction. Okay, hope you clear about friction. Hope you understand the concept of friction. We will continue in the next class with a new topic, that is non-contact forces. Thank you.